Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. And today is the Sunday of the first week of Stage 4. And we certainly have some banger matchups to enjoy in just a few hours time. But yesterday, of course, Los Angeles Thieves played a match. That means an LA Thieves pre-show now comes out. And a very interesting one indeed, to be honest, with what they had to say about the whole Huke situation. Why he was removed from the team, why it doesn't seem very likely that he's coming back anytime soon. And well, can you even imagine a world where Thieves would decide to sell him after paying whatever obscene fee they paid for his buyout? Intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you were new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. As we touched on yesterday then, after Paris Legion's defeat last night to the Minnesota Rokkr, another role change, right? We see this every single time. It seems like Scraps and Co lose a series. That's okay, Scraps is back on the AR, it seems like, instead of the SMG, and things are being swapped around. So maybe Temp is going to be back on the SMG, Scraps is back on the Krig. Just seems to me that either way they make this team work, it's probably not going to happen, given the fact that they tried the same thing with Fire so many times. When, okay, Scraps, okay, he's on the Krig, now he's on the SMG again. What's going on here? Then they make one roster change, now they make another roster change, and still the same issues are arising. Happy birthday to Crimsix for yesterday. Certainly, I believe he's turning 28 now. Playstyle, I think, is 29, so I mean, crazy to see these guys still competing right to the top of their game, given how many players of their age have long retired at this point. And this is just an insane, well, some insane statistics from back in the day, from the Dynasty era of complexity and evil geniuses, and then the OpTic Dynasty, I suppose, that you could look at right here. But yeah, 113 in 19 in terms of win-loss. That's just ridiculous. From Cole to EG, back from Black Ops 2 to Ghost, if you guys are new to the scene. A load of championships here. Of course, a load of championships on the OpTic Dynasty as well. And last year on the Dallas Empire, winning the World Championship as well, even though this win-loss doesn't exactly look so pretty now, given well, all these pool play matches I suppose we technically have, that maybe we'll talk about in the coming days. Thought this was interesting from Playstyle as well, because there was some discussion about it. You know, he looked somewhat frustrated after their series victory up against Los Angeles Guerrillas. As he says, talked about it a lot this year, but I'm for sure still dealing with the effects of being in my house too long. Can't wait for the LAN. Absolutely cannot wait for the wave of concerts to come back. Just really frustrated for no reason. It's hard to control. I have nothing to complain about. The squadron is in a great spot. Everyone's feeling well. I just get triggered by the smallest things. It takes 5 to 10 minutes for me to calm myself down mentally and get back in it. Never been like this before, not really sure. Definitely not tweeting this for a whereas me thing. Just like to talk about mental health publicly to let others know there's people that feel the same way. You aren't alone, even if it feels like it sometimes. So I thought it was pretty interesting from Playstyle. Pretty cool for him to come out and say this so openly, to be honest. And yeah, well, it seems like New York are playing great Call of Duty, right? So I think if Playstyle, especially when LAN comes back and stuff like that, maybe he feels in an even better headspace than he already is. That could be a scary thing, certainly, for the competition. On the other side of things, the loss for Los Angeles Guerrillas, down Cataclysmic, says Silly. We do have to wonder really about that team. Yes, it was an expected defeat, but at this point, for most of those bottom tier teams, it's an expected defeat. And the kind of coin flip league discussion that was happening earlier in the season seems to be less and less true by the day at this point. But well, one team that has had an interesting time of things lately has been the Los Angeles Thieves, as Octane says yesterday during the Los Angeles Thieves pre-show. And aBeZy, I'm taking down notes, because the name was basically like, it's going to be an easy victory up against Samuel Octane LaRue. And well, it turns out to be a victory for Los Angeles Thieves, far from convincing at the end of the day. We talked about that in some detail last night. However, the LA Thieves pre-show, of course, goes ahead as it tends to do nowadays. And it's honestly like, this is one of the more like, I don't know, it's uncomfortable to watch, let's just say. I like to watch this pack on 2 times speed after the fact, because watching it live is pretty brutal at times. So I can understand it's challenging, right? Because they have the 4 guys here at the desk in Los Angeles, which are, of course, Nature, Mudog, JCap, and aBeZy. And then you've got the team behind them on the screen in, I'm pretty sure they're based in Texas, right? So, it's kind of funny, right? That they have sitting there, well, all the guys are sitting there, getting ready to ask them some questions. And I guess they're thinking about their match, or they're thinking about whatever. I'm not exactly sure when it's recorded, because I'm not sure it's done perfectly live. And yeah, they throw it to the players on occasion, and the lighting isn't particularly spectacular. And they're all kind of just sitting there on these tiny little stools, waiting for some of the guys on the main stage, I suppose, to stop speaking. I don't know, it's just one of those things that a lot of the times the vibes aren't necessarily flowing in full effect. Let's just say that at the very least. However, there was some significant discussion about, look, TJHaLy's back, Huke isn't here anymore. Why is that the case? JCap and Mudog, of course, JCap the head coach, Mudog the general manager, they've obviously been making some of these decisions, and clearly the team has been involved as well. Like, I imagine they talked to the team and they decided, all right, okay, Huke clearly isn't stepping in the right direction here for our organization and for our squad. There's been a lot of, praise given to Venom. I think that Kenny has talked about the fact that, like, Venom has some of the best communication he's ever seen in a teammate. JCap very much likes what he does on the map. Drazah was great yesterday in their series victory against Seattle Surge, and TJ, of course, is back in the team. So, you're looking at that squad right now, and there's a lot of questions, of course, about why Huke isn't here. What was he doing on the map that was so wrong for this team? And also, could he ever get brought back? And some of the things that Jacob has to say, especially on this, I think are very telling indeed, saying that effectively a lot of his playstyle is to play around kills, not necessarily to play around for the benefit of the rest of the team. And then, well, clearly they figured that out relatively quickly, talking about the fact that a lot of these teams, you kind of realize if they're going to be good or bad very early on in their life cycle, and then kind of saying, well, look, we don't really see, we knew this team didn't fit, therefore it was basically like a massive mistake, and what are we going to do going forwards, right? Because this team, as I just talked about, there's some key pieces on this squad that aren't going to probably be changing anytime soon. They certainly don't want to be changing them anytime soon. So what potential team could they even put together, even in future seasons, where Huke actually might be a good asset for this team? It's very interesting what comes out of this one.
So, take the floor. Why is Huke not with us right now?
I mean, short story here, it wasn't a good fit. The game, just watching the game, it just looked way more difficult on all the players. You know, he was his play style is very individual based. I don't know what the right word is there. That's not it, but he's very individual, a lot of hero ball, and I don't think it's like a conscious decision from his end, but it was something that we had an issue with, and it wasn't really getting better.
I think that sounds a little bit worse than it was. I think players have certain instincts, and to change a play style can be a difficult thing to do. Changing, little plays here or there is easier, but when someone's instinct is to play the game a certain way, it can be tough to change. And with Kyler's play style, we saw he was taking a lot of routes and really playing to guarantee a kill, but it's not necessarily what you always need. Number situations, things like that, you have to react to how your teammates are playing, what's going on the map. So, again, he's an incredible talent, and I think there was just, a lack of, cohesiveness in the two play styles that the groups had. We always want to make sure everyone's on the same page as much as possible, so we're not giving up on anyone by any means.
And
I think there's also a few other sides of things. So, one, there's the point that Matt talked about where rosters click or don't click pretty quickly for the most part.
Absolutely.
You can definitely improve with a roster and, fix minute things. But as a whole, I think you see how a roster is going to be pretty early on when they first start playing together. Also, as we talked about, just like the play styles, how they mesh and everything.
You made an educated decision on what would make our team better through the talent that we've seen in years and years and years of history of Call of Duty. And it just didn't end up working out this time. And hopefully it can in the future. We're still going to a lot of decisions to make around Huke and where he fits into our program and helping him improve as a player. But I think we'll figure it out.
So as Kenny says, we've been playing way better in scrims than we actually have in the matches. We just got to execute a little bit better, and I think that's what Jacob was saying. Maybe I didn't play the clip for you guys, but he was talking about the fact that, Venom especially has been really good in their scrims. It's just yet to quite translate, but when it does, I think they can be a very scary team. Of course, they do get the victory yesterday. Wasn't convincing by any means, a 6-1 search and destroy right to the death. But yeah, losing both hardpoints, not something you want to do, but against Seattle, they kind of bail you out if you're having a tough series. They'll throw you a bone and let you win a game 5 if it does come down to the wire when the time does arrive. And well, as Jacob says, I thought was pretty funny right here, talking about keeping this team, you swap in Huke for Venom next week to see how that goes. Probably just going to throw a dart on a board with all 4 of them on it to see who Huke replaces that. So kind of what some fans think that Jacob is up to, I suppose, behind the scenes right now. Pretty interesting as well to see that Drazah was the only guy here on the top 10 of KD yesterday, despite the series victory that they got for Los Angeles Thieves. Of course, there are 10 players on the top 10, as it does, of course, make sense. Let's talk about a couple of things before we finish off the video. Of course, these matches later today are going to be pretty spectacular indeed. This from Turtle, Game 5 records so far this season. This was from a couple of days ago now, or yesterday, I'm pretty sure, so I don't think it includes the Game 5 from yesterday between Thieves and the Seattle Surge, but still, Subliners Rokkr have the best Game 5 records. I guess FaZe are up there with 8 Game 5 victories, Empire here with 7. There's some teams down there, OpTic, for example, 1 and 4, I guess is kind of a surprise. Seattle Surge, Royal Ravens, Ravens' clutch factor in the Game 5s and in their round 11s has got to just be absolutely woeful. Some teams are good at these, some teams are bad at these. That is just how it is. Maybe it's less 50-50 than you think. I guess round 11s could be 50-50, but game 5s probably, certainly are not. Let's talk about the games then later today. These are going to be some absolute bangers. These are how the groups are shaping up right now. So already very interesting, right? Group A especially. You've got OpTic, FaZe, and Thieves all here at 1-0. Minnesota Rokkr at 1-1. And Seattle and Paris. I mean, this is kind of how we expected it to go, to be honest. And we were only 1 or 2 series in to the entire group. Group B is kind Chaos, we've got teams at 1-0, 0-1, of course, but Ultra's one of those teams down here at 0-1. I mean, they have a massive bounce back series today, potentially up against the Dallas Empire. These series are going to be absolutely spectacular indeed. These are what they look like. Mutineers versus the Ravens. This is massive for both of these teams. Ravens lost just the other day in the Game 5 to Dallas Empire. I think that they can put up a great fight in this series. I would not be surprised to see them take this one. And Mutineers are just one of those teams that they could beat Toronto Ultra the other day, and then they could just come out here and look pretty bad and lose to Ravens. That's almost what I think will happen. I need to see more from Florida to prove that they can perform at that level 2 series in a row, because I haven't seen it so far this season, to be honest. But I guess technically they should be favourites here, given the victory they had against Ultra just a couple of days ago. But then we've got the next series. Ultra come up against the Empire. This is a banger, I think, super important for both of these teams. Ultra can't really afford to go 0-2 to start off this pool with a New York still to play. So they've got to have big questions about this if they do lose this series. And Dallas Empire with Vivid are probably going to have a tough time here. I think that Ultra are going to be back on their top form for this series. And then the final series of the day, that is really the banger that we've been waiting for. FaZe versus OpTic. This is honestly, I'm really looking forward to this one, because OpTic are looking so much better than they did last time they played the FaZe Clan team. If you guys remember this series from the Dallas home series in the final week of Stage 3, this it wasn't pretty, right? There was the whole internet, the server discussion, but yeah, the first hardpoint on raid 100-point club, search and destroy 6-2. Control was 3-0. It was not close by any means for the guys on Atlanta FaZe. This time around, I think this is going to be a much more competitive series, and you've also got to consider what maps they're going to be playing, right? Because Checkmate Search and Destroy is out. I'd imagine both teams would probably have gone for that if it was in the rotation. So are we going to see a standoff? FaZe did not look good on that the other day, and OpTic did look very good on that indeed. So it may come down to something like that, where you have the whole situation where you might have to see a standoff, or you might have to see a Miami. That's what I'm really interested to see, in what one of those Search and Destroys go through, if any of them. Because Moscow, of course, FaZe are incredibly good on there, and lost that so far this season. Maybe OpTic try and tackle them there, but I'd love to see a standoff or something and see how that plays out. So I think that FaZe should be going in as favourites, right? I think they're the best team in the game. I think they're going to be very hard to stop. At the same time, OpTic have been looking so much better as of late. I think this series arguably could go down to the wire. I would not be surprised to see a Game 5 here. I think we'd love to see it. I'm probably going to lean towards FaZe because it's tough not to, but it would be great to see OpTic continue their reign of terror and actually get an upset win here over Atlanta FaZe. It would really throw up things in that pool, that is for sure. But intrigued to get your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate a like on the video. It really helps out the YouTube algorithm to know you enjoyed this content. Other people like you may enjoy this content as well, and I've grown the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always, take care, and I will see you next time.